Romance is a massive part of The Rookie. The drama, the build-up, the makeout scenes, everything that people love. But exactly how many relationships were there on the show? Today, I'm going to talk about every relationship on The Rookie that involved at least one main character. Every single one. Let's start off with all of the relationships that Lucy Chen has had, because I know that most people would be interested in that. First up, we have another main character, John Nolan. And this relationship spanned from the pilot episode all the way to season 1, episode 4, The Switch, with an extra little tidbit later on. When the pilot episode first started out, the show tried to make it seem like they weren't together, as they were in the bar and that woman went up to Nolan and Lucy identified it. But then they decided to drop the bombshell that no, the two rookies are dating. And there was a lot of pushback from Bishop about this, as if this relationship went public, Lucy's reputation would be branded. Is it against the rules? Well, no, but nobody would respect Lucy and the work that she's doing to become a cop. And eventually, both Nolan and Lucy decide to split for that reason in The Choice. However, in episode 8, they do hook up again after the killing incident with Nolan. This pairing was extremely controversial, and fans are glad that they killed this pairing off as quickly as they did. The next relationship of hers that we are going to talk about is Emmett Lang, which took place at the end of season 2, with it spilling over into season 3. While on a call, Emmett meets Lucy and we find out that Emmett is actually Tim's friend, and they end up sleeping together and getting into a relationship. However, the boat starts to rock in season 2, episode 19, The Q Word, when she and Tim are arguing, and Emmett stands up for her and tries to break up the argument. However, Lucy wasn't happy with this and told him that she didn't need defended. This was not good for their relationship, and in season 3, episode 8, Bad Blood, he breaks up with her over text. Ouch. Her third relationship that we're going to talk about was with Chris Sanford, which went on throughout season 4 and the first half of season 5. Chris is an assistant district attorney who meets Lucy on a case in the season 4 episode Heartbeat, where they're on the opposite sides of the fence of each other. She sees the young man that they're convicting as redeemable, whereas he doesn't. They did not like each other in Heartbeat, but as time went on, they began to warm up to each other and realized they have a bit in common. But then, when the double date opportunity with Tim and Ashley came up, they took it. This date was awkward. They basically just told inside stories the whole time and left Ashley and Chris feeling left out. But Lucy calls for a do-over date, and they go. This is the start of their very rocky relationship that lasts for almost the whole next season. I say rocky because there were a lot of interesting moments. One big one being when he hummed the song Lucy sang in the barrel, as he had just watched the footage from that day.
You okay?
I'm so sorry.
But on the sidelines, another relationship was starting to brew. I did not finish Chris's segment because we need to talk about the start of the Chenford saga with Lucy and Tim. Their official relationship has 2 parts, one from seasons 5 and 6, and then the next in season 8. However, their beginnings start quite before that, where due to their undercover mission involving Dim and Juicy, they had to learn to pretend being a couple. They kissed, then they made out, then they... You know what? Are we sure that they were pretending? Anyways, they started to wonder if they really had the hots for each other. And they did. Tim asks Lucy out in season 5, episode 8, The Caller, to which she immediately says yes, but then she realizes that she hadn't broke up with Chris yet. Oh, the drama. So then Lucy broke up with Chris in the next episode, and they go out on their first official date, which leads to them fully getting together. They're happy and healthy together until season 6, episode 6, Secrets and Lies, where due to Tim's vow situation, he decides he's not in the place to be dating Lucy right now and breaks up with her. This breaks her heart, and after a while, he realizes that he made a mistake. Over the course of the next season and a half, he tries to win her trust and feelings back. And while this slowly does happen, Lucy doesn't fully trust him to not break her heart again. But in season 8, episode 1, Checkmate, Tim truly apologizes and offers for her to move in with him as a sign of how truly serious he is. Enough time had passed for her, and she agreed. And as of episode 4, when I'm writing this video, they are still happily together and working out the complications of being moved in with each other. let's move on to the relationships of Angela Lopez. Or should I say relationship, because there's only one. And it's with the one and only Wesley Evers. Their relationship started in Season 1, Episode 10, Flesh and Blood, and have been together ever since. In Flesh and Blood, they butted heads throughout nearly the entire episode. But at the end, Wesley invites her out on a date, and she agrees. And ever since, they have been happy and healthy. While they've had some rocky instances in their relationship, none of those instances were with each other, rather fighting against something or someone else as a team. A couple examples of this are when Lopez gets kidnapped by La Fiera and had to be saved in the Season 4 premiere, Life and Death, as well as when Wesley was being threatened and tortured by Elijah Stone throughout Seasons 4 and 5. Speaking of Life and Death, they also got married in this episode, even if they had planned to have it in the previous episode in the Season 3 finale, Threshold. That's actually the episode where the La Fiera kidnapping took place. But overall, this relationship is the healthiest in the show that started during the show's run. I make that distinction because of a couple we'll talk about later. Moving on to our next character, we are going to talk about all of the Tim Bradford relationships throughout the show. We have to start off with the relationship that already was technically ongoing at the beginning of the series, which is him and Isabel that went on from the pilot until Season 1, Episode 12, Heartbreak. Isabel and Tim were cops that got together and then got married. She was in gangs and narcotics for most of her career, which ended up slowly sending her down a rabbit hole of actual drug use and later addiction. This strained Tim and her relationship to where they had to physically separate from one another, despite still being legally married. However, in Heartbreak, Tim decided that in the spirit of Valentine's Day, he was gonna ask her for a divorce. Wait, that doesn't sound very romantic. But Isabel agrees and thanks him for never giving up on her, ending their marriage on a very amicable note. Moving on, we have the relationship that Tim had with Rachel Hall, Lucy's friend from Season 2, Episode 3, The Bet, all the way until the season finale. She was part of a bet that Lucy made in order to get short sleeves, where she would set Tim up on one good date. Tim accepts and he and Rachel go out. While Lucy and Jackson are stalking the date, it seems like the date is going awful, as she even slaps him as she gets up. However, the next day, when Lucy came over, she found out that they had slept together, and this was the start of their relationship. They were actually pretty cute throughout the season, sharing a lot of little moments, with Lucy being a part of them every once in a while. But at the end of the season, she tells Tim that she has to move to New York City in order to get her dream job. They initially agreed to try and make long distance work, since Tim wasn't ready to jump ship and move for her. But this doesn't end up lasting, and they break up off screen. Kinda sad, honestly. And now we need to talk about his and Ashley McGrady's relationship that took place throughout Season 4 that ended at the front end of Season 5. She first appears in Season 4, Episode 6, Poetic Justice, as the daughter of Jerry McGrady, a cop who was on the force for decades before retiring at the end of the episode. There was mutual connection between Tim and Ashley, and in Episode 12, The Knock, they started dating. This doesn't last long, however, because in Season 5, Episode 5, The Fugitive, Ashley breaks up with Tim after the talks about him retiring fell on deaf ears. She was always worried about her dad getting hurt and couldn't do that for Tim as well, so she let things go. Coming up next, we're going to talk about all of the relationships that Nyla Harper has had with other characters. I'm going to start with a quick honorable mention to her and Donovan Town. They aren't dating during the show's run, and they divorced well before Nyla's first appearance. However, they do have a quick run-in of sleeping together after having a night of drinks in the Season 4 episode ACH. They're on good-ish terms, however, they can't be together. Now I'm going to talk about her one true relationship within the show, which is with James Murray. This relationship has been a thing since Season 3, and they're still together today. Their relationship started off extremely rocky, as Nyla was interested in two people at the time, James and a guy named Alonzo. She ends up double booking a date with the two guys, and they end up finding out by running into each other. They both walk out, and Nyla is left alone in the restaurant. She begs James for another chance though, as she wants him more than Alonzo. He surprisingly agrees, and they give it another shot, which leads to them officially getting together. They end up getting married in Season 4, and they've been together ever since, navigating through life, including having a daughter together. That's not to say their relationship hasn't been turbulent though, as they have had a lot of conflicts due to their professions and values involving police work. But hopefully the show can finally give this couple some peace and compromise. That or they get divorced, either way I'm happy. Lieutenant Gray has only been in one relationship throughout the entire show, and it predates the show by 2 decades. This is with his wife, Luna. They have been rock solid from the beginning of the show all the way to present day. Right now, there's a tiny bit of tension involving their schedules that started to show in the beginning of season 8, but they've been working through that very efficiently and are still doing great to this day. But there's a possible plotline that is coming that is scary to think about, as it involves Luna possibly cheating. I am really hoping they don't hurt their relationship, as they're the only relationship that's lasted the entire show, and I'd really like that not to change. Now we have Selena Juarez's only relationship to talk about next. This is with Raj Bronson, which started in season 7, episode 10, Chaos Agent, and is still ongoing today. Raj hasn't been in a lot of episodes, and this relationship is fairly new, so there isn't a lot to talk about involving their relationship. However, their relationship has been controversial within the fan base, as well as people believe that she deserves a more dynamic partner than Raj, since his actor, Xander Hawley, is a songwriter and not the best actor. We'll just have to see what goes on with them during this season. And now we're on to John Nolan's relationships, which I already made a whole video about, so instead, I'm going to leave the link to that video right here so you guys can watch in continuation of this one. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one.